Welcome to the Explainer. Now, if you're a power user staring down the launch of the brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max, you are probably completely drowning in spec sheets right about now. I know, there is a ton of data out there, but we are going to cut right through all that noise today. We're diving straight into the really dense specifications of Apple's absolute newest flagship to see what it's really made of. Because, let's be real, the ultimate question is simply this: is the iPhone 17 Pro Max actually the right upgrade for you? Today, we're taking those dense textbook-style technical numbers and translating them into a practical, real-world buyer's guide. We are going to look closely at the hardware, the pro-level cameras, daily battery endurance, and finally, whether the premium cost and your potential trade-in value actually justifies making the leap. Section 1. The foundation. Okay, let's dive into this and talk about build and durability. So Apple has made a pretty notable shift this year. We're looking at a brand new aluminum frame, moving to these new structural designs which are sandwiched incredibly securely between a super tough ceramic shield 2 glass front and an aluminum or ceramic shield glass back. Now you combine that with an 8.8mm thickness, and what you get is a device with some serious significant heft. It gives you that solid, reassuring feel of a true high-end tool. And when you compare it directly against last year's iPhone 16 Pro Max, this updated aluminum chassis actually distributes that 233-gram weight so much better in the hand. And speaking of that reassuring feel, let's talk about the actual durability specs. It rocks an IP68 rating, which means this phone is completely dust-tight. But the real standout detail? It can survive being fully submerged in up to 6 meters of water for 30 minutes. In the real world, this gives you massive peace of mind. Whether you get caught in a crazy heavy rainstorm, completely spill a coffee all over your desk, or, accidentally drop it in the shallow end of a pool, the 17 Pro Max is literally engineered to just brush it off without missing a single beat. Section 2, the canvas. Let's explore the new display capabilities. 3,000. Now that is a massive number. We are talking about an astonishing 3,000 nits of peak brightness, which is just a massive leap straight up from the 16 Pro Max. In totally practical terms, think about this. If you're out shooting photos on a bright, sunny beach or trying to read a critical document under harsh, direct sunlight, you simply won't have to cup your hand over the screen to see it anymore. This display just flat out overpowers the sun. But raw brightness is really only half the story when we're talking about visual clarity. We're getting a super crisp 1320 by 2868 pixel resolution, but the absolute real magic here is how that 120 Hz refresh rate pairs up with Apple's brand new anti-reflective coating. What this means for you is that when you're endlessly scrolling through dense articles or scrubbing through intense video editing timelines, the motion is flawlessly fluid and you aren't constantly fighting the terrible glare of overhead office lights. And of course, the whole shebang is protected by that ceramic shield too, hitting a moss hardness level of 5 to keep your screen totally scratch-free. Section 3. The engine. Time to look under the hood at the A19 Pro performance. 12. This is a genuinely crucial point. 12 gigabytes of RAM is your new baseline. It is now standard across absolutely every storage tier, from the base 256 gigabyte model all the way up to the massive 2 terabyte version. So if you're upgrading from an older 8 gigabyte model, this is going to be a tremendous, noticeable leap, especially for power users who need dozens of background apps open and ready to go without the phone constantly refreshing or dumping memory. And the GSM Arena benchmarks completely validate all this raw power. We're looking at Antutu version 10 hitting well over 2.6 million. Geekbench 6 easily pushes past the 10,000 mark, and 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme hits over 6,000. So what do these massive numbers actually mean for you? Basically, they guarantee that the A19 Pro completely outpaces current competing flagship chipsets. Whether you're rendering high-resolution video right there on the go or playing some ridiculously graphic-heavy games, you are experiencing peak, completely lag-free performance. Section 4. The tools. Let's dive into the pro-level camera system. This is where things get seriously exciting because these new lenses open up an absolute powerhouse suite of professional video formats. We're talking 10-bit HDR, Dolby Vision, and ProRes plus ProRes RAW at up to 120 frames per second. But the real game changers here are the inclusion of Apple Log 2 and 3D spatial video and audio. These specific features literally transform this phone from just a simple point-and-shoot camera into a professional-grade content creation tool. You are capturing maximum dynamic range that is immediately ready for some really heavy post-production color grading. And hey, let's definitely not ignore the front of a device, right? It packs a brand new 18 megapixel multi-aspect ultra-wide sensor, which also features spatial audio and true stereo sound recording. If you're a vlogger or just someone who is constantly taking high-stakes video calls for work, this setup delivers these incredibly wide, crystal clear shots with high-quality audio that finally actually matches the visual fidelity. Section 5. Endurance. Let's check out battery life and charging. Because honestly, all of this high-end hardware begs a huge question. How is the battery life? Well, here is a super fascinating little market-dependent nuance you should absolutely be aware of. If you happen to live in a region that still requires a physical nano SIM tray, you're getting a 4823 milliamp hour battery. But if you're in a region with the eSIM-only model, like the US market, well, removing that physical tray actually frees up enough physical space inside the phone for a slightly larger 5088 milliamp hour battery cell. It's just a really interesting structural difference that yields a tiny bit more capacity for some users. But listen, regardless of your specific exact model, the unbelievable power efficiency of that 3nm A19 Pro chip truly shines through here. We are looking at a highly impressive GS Arena active use score of 17 hours and 58 minutes. Let's translate that into a real-world benefit. That means you can easily survive an entire heavy travel day. I'm talking navigating with GPS, snapping a bunch of photos, watching downloaded movies on a flight, and aggressively managing emails all day, without desperately hunting for a wall charger by 3 p.m. But when you do finally hit the red zone and run low, the rapid charging specs absolutely have you covered. Using standard wired power delivery 3.2, you can actually hit a 50% charge in just 20 minutes. Plus, there's upgraded 25-watt MagSafe wireless charging and even 4.5-watt reverse wire charging for topping up your accessories. Getting up to 50% in just 20 minutes is quite literally the exact lifeline a power user needs during a quick airport layover or a super brief coffee break just to keep moving. Section 6. The cost. Time for pricing and our final verdict. Let's talk numbers and see how all this incredible hardware translates into your actual starting investment across the different storage configurations. Now, keep in mind, every single tier comes with that standard 12 gigabytes of RAM. The 256 gigabyte base model starts at $1,092.49. Moving up to 512 gigabytes pushes you to $1,288.28, and the top tier 1 terabyte model hits right around $1,499. Look, it is undoubtedly a highly premium entry cost, so you need to very carefully evaluate your personal storage needs and seriously weigh how much of this cost can be offset by the trade-in value of your current everyday device. And before we totally wrap up, we always like to take a quick pulse on the early community reception. Take this one completely anonymous GSM Arena user who enthusiastically wrote, "I love out this phone. It's perfect for daily use, highly recommended," along with a whole bunch of heart eyes emojis. Now, while we definitely appreciate the sheer unbridled passion here, as another commenter very dryly pointed out, it is highly enthusiastic to the point of sounding maybe just a little bit bot-like. But honestly, it perfectly highlights the massive hype and the immediate buzzing conversation that completely surrounds this phone's launch. And that brings us to our final verdict, and a real question for you to consider today. Does the massive leap from your current iPhone to the raw A19 Pro multitasking power, the blindingly bright 3000-nit display, and those legitimate pro video tools like Apple Log 2 actually justify spending over $1,092 today? Look, if you're just casually browsing social media, yeah, it might be way more phone than you actually need. But if your smartphone is the literal central engine of your creative or professional workflow, well, this might just be the absolute most capable piece of hardware you can buy right now. So think on that, let me know what you decide to do, and I will see you in the next explainer.